Natalia did not run. She walked down the stairs slowly, one step at a time, as if each step was separating her from a life she had already outgrown. Behind her, the apartment exploded with noise. Aleftina Borisovna screamed without stopping, shrill, hysterical, wounded. Other voices joined in, indignant, accusatory, righteous. Someone cursed Natalia, someone pitied Maxim, someone loudly declared that family values are being destroyed these days. Natalia didn't turn around. Outside, the air was sharp and clean. Frost bit her cheeks. Snow creaked softly under her boots. For the first time in a long while, her chest didn't feel tight. She took out her phone, called a taxi, and while waiting, typed a single message to Maxim. "I'll come for my things tomorrow. Don't call me." He didn't call. Not that evening. Not the next day. Not the day after that. 3 days passed. Natalia stayed with a friend. She went to work. She smiled at colleagues. She shelved books. She answered readers' questions. From the outside, nothing had changed. Inside, something enormous had fallen away. Like a heavy backpack she had been carrying for years, without realizing how much it weighed. On the 3rd of January, Maxim finally called. "Natalia, let's meet," he said quietly. They met at a small cafe near the metro. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders slumped. "Mom is still in shock," he began. "The relatives are offended. Aunt Ludmila isn't speaking to us at all." "And?" Natalia asked calmly. "Well, this needs to be fixed. You should apologize, buy normal gifts. We'll smooth everything over." She stared at him. Was this really the man she had loved? "Maxim," she said softly, "I spent 3 years compromising." He clenched his jaw. "So you just decided to destroy everything?" "You destroyed it," she replied evenly, "the moment you didn't stand up for me." "I didn't choose anyone," he said defensively. "You did," Natalia answered. "You chose when you stayed silent." He rubbed his face with both hands. "What do you want?" "Divorce." The word landed between them. Final, heavy, undeniable. Maxim nodded slowly. "All right," he said hoarsely. "I'll call a lawyer this week." He stood up and left without looking back. Natalia finished her cold coffee and gazed out the window. Snow drifted down lazily. Life flowed forward, indifferent and unstoppable. Her life, too. The divorce took 4 months. They sold the apartment, split the debt, signed the papers. Natalia rented a small one-bedroom place near the library. She adopted a cat, painted the walls a soft, warm color. Maxim, according to rumors, moved back in with his mother. Aleftina Borisovna triumphed. Her son was with her again. The relatives eventually forgave the scandal, though at family gatherings they still liked to recall that awful daughter-in-law. Natalia didn't care. One winter afternoon, a year later, she ran into Aleftina Borisovna at a shopping mall. The older woman stood near a shelf of cleaning supplies, holding kitchen sponges. She noticed Natalia and flushed red. For a moment, it looked like she wanted to say something. She even took a step forward. Natalia looked at her calmly, without anger, without fear, without emotion, as if looking through empty space, and she walked past. Aleftina Borisovna remained standing, mouth slightly open, clutching a sponge in her hand. Life went on, and this time it was Natalia's life. On December 28th, Aleftina Borisovna hosted her traditional pre-New Year gathering. It was one of her proudest rituals. Every year, without fail, nearly 20 relatives crowded into her apartment. They ate, drank, argued loudly, reminisced, and exchanged gifts. The smell of mayonnaise, fried meat, and cheap perfume hung thick in the air. Aunt Ludmila ruled the living room sofa like a queen. Niece Kira ran through the hallway, shrieking with excitement. Uncle Gennady entertained a cluster of relatives with dirty jokes. Aleftina Borisovna met them at the door, eyes sharp and assessing. "So," she said, glancing at the bags, "you brought the gifts." Maxim nodded and pointed to 4 massive shopping bags. "Everything's there." "Good," she said briskly. Natalia, put them under the tree. Nicely. So everyone can find theirs. It wasn't a request. Natalia said nothing and carried the bags into the living room. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, glittering with tinsel and blinking lights. A few boxes already lay beneath it. She began placing the packages carefully. Each one was labeled, each one wrapped perfectly. Ludmila, Oleg, Kira. Everything looked festive, proper, respectable. By 6 in the evening, everyone had gathered around the table. Aleftina Borisovna rose, raised her glass, and delivered a long toast about family, gratitude, and traditions. Everyone drank. Then the gift distribution began. She announced names solemnly, like an awards ceremony, handing out boxes one by one. Thank you, relatives murmured, placing the gifts aside. It was tradition not to open them immediately. But Kira couldn't contain herself. She tore into her box right at the table. Aleftina Borisovna frowned at first, then waved her hand indulgently. Well, children are allowed. Kira ripped off the paper eagerly. Natalia watched quietly, sipping her compote. The girl froze. She stared into the box, confused. This, Kira said slowly, pulling out the contents. This is a sponge? Silence fell. A big sponge, she added uncertainly. And rubber gloves? Aunt Ludmila leaned over and snorted. What kind of joke is this? Aleftina Borisovna stiffened. What sponge? Show me. Kira handed it over. It was exactly that, a huge kitchen sponge the size of a brick, and a pair of yellow rubber gloves. There was also a card. Kira, help your mother around the house. With love. The room went quiet. Aleftina Borisovna's face flushed dark red. What is this nonsense? She snapped. Maxim turned, startled. What happened? This, his mother hissed, throwing the sponge onto the table. Instead of a doll, Aunt Ludmila was already opening her gift. She gasped. Inside lay a broom and a dustpan, with a note. Ludmila, may your home always shine with cleanliness. Uncle Gennady, now fully invested, ripped open his box. Instead of cognac, he pulled out a bottle of cheap hawthorn tincture and a pack of low-quality cigarettes. The card read, Gennady, don't get used to expensive things. The room erupted. Everyone began opening their gifts. A mousetrap and sunflower seeds, a loofah and laundry soap, socks with holes, carefully wrapped, expired condensed milk. Laughter turning sharp. Aleftina Borisovna stood slowly, her face drained of color. Who did this? She demanded. Natalia set her glass down calmly. I did. All eyes snapped toward her. Maxim turned pale. Natalia, what are you doing? She looked at Aleftina Borisovna. Not angrily, not bitterly, calmly. You sent me a list, Natalia said evenly. I fulfilled it. I bought gifts for everyone. These are not gifts, Aleftina Borisovna shrieked. This is humiliation. Is it? Natalia asked quietly. And what about a photo of your backside instead of birthday wishes? Was that appreciation? Maxim grabbed her arm. Stop it. She pulled free. 3 years, Natalia said, her voice steady. For 3 years I endured insults, mockery, silence. She looked around the table. I listened to how I wasn't good enough, how I cooked wrong, cleaned wrong, lived wrong. She turned back to her mother-in-law. No kind words, ever, just orders. Aleftina Borisovna lunged forward. You dare speak like this in my house? In your house, Natalia nodded, where everyone bows and obeys. She straightened. I won't anymore. Aleftina Borisovna raised her hand. Whether to strike or simply from rage, it didn't matter. Natalia didn't flinch. Maxim rushed between them. Enough, both of you. Get out, Aleftina Borisovna screamed. Out of my house. I don't want to see her again. With pleasure, Natalia said calmly. She turned and walked toward the door. Behind her, chaos erupted. Did you hear what she did? Divorce her immediately. I won't tolerate such a daughter-in-law. At the doorway, Natalia turned. Maxim stood frozen, torn. His mother clutched his sleeve, crying hysterically. Relatives stared at their gifts like evidence at a crime scene. Max, Natalia said quietly. He looked at her, then at his mother, then back at her. Why did you do this? He whispered. I'm tired of being a doormat, Natalia replied. Silence. She saw it then. The choice. And she understood. Now or later, it didn't matter. His mother was sacred. A wife was replaceable. I understand, she said softly, and left. The festive mood vanished in an instant. It happened at the exact moment Natalia's phone vibrated on the kitchen table. Just a second ago, she had been standing by the window, watching heavy gray snowflakes melt into dirty streaks on the glass. New Year's decorations glittered faintly in neighboring windows. Somewhere outside, someone laughed. Somewhere life went on. And then her phone chimed. A message from her husband. Natalia frowned slightly and reached for the phone, already feeling a dull heaviness settle in her chest. Messages from Maxim rarely brought anything good lately. She opened it. Mom is asking us to buy gifts for the new year. Here's the list. Below the message was a photo. Natalia stared at the screen. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a discussion. It was a command. A long, neatly structured list, formatted like an office document, with bullet points and prices. For Aunt Ludmila, a cosmetic set, no cheaper than 5,000 rubles. For cousin Oleg, a gaming mouse, around 8,000. For niece Kira, a doll set, 4,000. For Uncle Gennady, good cognac, from 3,000 and up. And on it went. 15 names, 15 demands. At the bottom, a final line finished it off. Everything must be beautifully wrapped with bows. Keep the receipts. Natalia slowly lowered the phone onto the table. She didn't need a calculator. The numbers formed in her head instantly. At least 60,000. Easily. She exhaled sharply through her nose. Her salary as a librarian was 42,000 a month, before taxes. Maxim earned more, yes, but his income vanished just as quickly. The mortgage, the car loan, utilities, groceries, and now this. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Memories surfaced immediately, sharp, unpleasant, impossible to ignore. Her own birthday, August, only a few months ago. Instead of warm words or congratulations, she had received a photograph. A photo of her mother-in-law's bare backside. Natalia opened her eyes and let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Family, she murmured. 3 years ago, when she married Maxim, his mother, Aleftina Borisovna, had greeted her with theatrical warmth. Hugged her tightly, kissed her cheeks, called her my dear girl. That warmth evaporated quickly. The moment Aleftina Borisovna realized the young couple wasn't planning to move into her 3-room apartment on the outskirts of the city, but instead dared to take out a mortgage of their own, something inside her hardened. So, she had scoffed back then, you think you're better than everyone else now? Noses in the air already? From that day on, every meeting turned into a subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, endurance test. Again with pasta, Maxim? My son never ate like this before. Natalia, why is there dust on the shelves? Surely you have time to clean. And when are you giving me grandchildren? Or are you building some grand librarian career? Natalia endured it. Every time she tried to bring it up, Maxim brushed it off. That's just how Mom is, he said. Her character is difficult, but she means well. She worries. Worries about what? About whom? A healthy 58-year-old woman with a pension and a side income had plenty of energy to worry about other people's lives. Natalia said nothing. She loved her husband, and she didn't want to force him to choose. The breaking point had come in August, her birthday. Natalia turned 28 that year. Maxim had left on a business trip, warned her in advance, promised they would celebrate properly when he returned. In the morning, messages poured in, from friends, parents, colleagues. Warm words, emojis, calls. From her mother-in-law, nothing. At first, Natalia tried not to think about it. By lunchtime, her phone buzzed. Aleftina Borisovna. Natalia smiled despite herself, so she remembered after all. She opened the message and froze. On the screen was a photograph, a close-up. From below, a pair of female buttocks in worn sweatpants. Blurry, awkward, undeniable. Natalia stared at the image, unable to decide whether to laugh or cry. Had it been an accident? Had Aleftina Borisovna been trying to photograph something on a shelf, and pressed the wrong button? Or had it been intentional? With her, anything was possible. Hands trembling slightly, Natalia forwarded the photo to Maxim. "Your mother sent me a photo of her butt for my birthday," he replied an hour later. "She didn't do it on purpose. Don't overthink it." No apology followed. A week later, when Natalia stopped by her mother-in-law's apartment to pick up a forgotten saucepan, Aleftina Borazovna didn't mention the incident at all. Instead, she spent half an hour praising her niece Kira, how well the girl studied, how smart and talented she was. Natalia listened in silence. And now, this list. She dialed Maxim. "Seriously?" she asked the moment he picked up. His reply came calmly. "Well, Mom always does this. We're family." "Family," Natalia repeated, her voice tight. She ended the call and stared at the wall. Family. For niece Kira, a doll worth 4,000. For Natalia, a photo of someone's backside. Outside, November dragged its gray belly across the city. Wet snow clung to shoes and coats. The sky pressed down, low and heavy. Is this really how my life is going to be? She wondered. Endless silence. And gratitude in return? Maxim came home late that evening, tired. Natalia met him at the door. "Did you see the list your mother sent?" He shrugged off his jacket and headed into the kitchen. "Yeah, so? 60,000, Maxim. For her relatives. We still haven't paid utilities." "We'll manage," he said lightly. "I'll get a bonus in December." "And why exactly is this my responsibility?" Natalia asked quietly. "Why doesn't your mother buy the gifts herself if it's so important to her?" Maxim poured himself tea and sat down. "Natalia, don't start. It's tradition. We've always done it this way. Mom organizes everything. We help." "Organizes?" Natalia echoed. "Sending a list on WhatsApp is organizing now?" "Well, you're the one with more free time," he added casually. "You don't work late." Something snapped inside her. She clenched her fists. So that's how he sees it. 3 days a week, until 3 o'clock. Not a job, a resort. "Understood," she said quietly. That night, Natalia didn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every humiliation, every sarcastic remark, every moment she had swallowed her pride to keep the peace. How Aleftina Borisovna once said in front of guests, "Maxim could have found a better wife, but well, it is what it is." How she criticized Natalia's cooking, how she demonstratively wiped plates Natalia had used, as if they were dirty. And now, the list. Not a hint of consideration. Just an order. By morning, the decision was made. Natalia got dressed quietly and left the apartment while Maxim slept. She went to a shopping mall across the city. 3 hours later, she returned with heavy bags. Maxim was having breakfast. "You're up early," he said in surprise. "Bought gifts," Natalia replied evenly. "For your mother's relatives." His face lit up. "See? I told you we'd manage." She said nothing. In the room, she laid out boxes and packages on the couch. 15 gifts. For everyone on the list. Maxim peeked in. "Why so many?" 15 people. 15 gifts. Satisfied, he returned to his computer. Natalia looked at the neatly arranged packages and smiled. A small, calm smile. For the next 2 days, she wrapped them carefully, with bows.